Our first presentation is, as we have said, developing native web applications using Morph by Ulrik Strid. So Ulrik, take it away.
Yes, hello. My name is Ulrik Strid, and I've been in the Reason community since 2017, I think. I have 2 kids and 1 wife, and I work at a company named Zenit in Gothenburg. And I'm Ulrik Strid on most places. I'm going to go through shortly what I do at Zenit here as well. So I'm in Team DevOps, and we're doing some in-house projects. We're developing a identity provider, which is mostly a OpenID Connect provider on top of Swedish and Norwegian bank ID. And then we're doing a portal for our customers where they can handle licenses and stuff like that. And the front end there is written in Reason React. We're also doing some external development, helping customers with architecture questions and even building smaller services that fits into their whole service network or whatever. And we're also doing a lot of developer experience, helping teams be more productive. And we're helping them host Kubernetes as a service and more. And we're hiring if you live in Gothenburg. So please reach out to me if you're interested. So Reason Native Web. Reason Native Web is a collection of repositories on GitHub, where we have Morph, which is a web framework. We have a vendor repository that tries to eliminate resolutions when working with Morph and other web-related stuff in Reason. We also have a few templates to help you get started quickly with Morph development. We have Docker repository with some images for easy with different Ocaml versions and some libraries like Morph, etc. So it's like 3 layers that you can just easily get started with. You don't have to do it all the tedious setup. We want to have guides for Docker, but we currently don't have them because we're not sure exactly how we want to structure them. And you can find everything on GitHub under the Reason Native Web organization. Any questions so far? Nothing in the chat at least, so I'm moving forward. So let's talk about Morph then. It's a lightweight framework. It's built on top of Piaf from Antonio Montero, which started as a HTTP client, but Antonio also needed a server implementation, so we added that. And when I found out, I switched over Morph to use that instead of my own implementation because I don't want to handle those lower level details. So I'm using Piaf in the bottom, and then I'm adding some opinions and nice to have things on top. And we have smaller modules like sessions that are in the box. We also have a router and some other nice things, but yeah. We also have a separate package that is GraphQL-server, which is based on Ocaml-graphql-server, and it just makes it very easy to integrate with it. So you just build out your schema, and then you get a working GraphQL server. And the development is driven from what I and others need while developing applications. So it's moving slowly because I'm developing a bit on Morph, and then I'm trying to build things with it. And then I go back to it because I find something that I want Morph to handle for me. So any questions on what Morph is? Or are we good so far? This is moving really fast. Nice. So this is a very simple web server in Morph. First, you create the server with a port, and then you start it. We take in a list of servers for historical reasons. Before I moved over to Piaf, you could have multiple servers, and you could have one for HTTPS and one for HTTP, and then we started everything together and used the same handler and the same middlewares for everything, which was cool, but I don't want to maintain that. So yeah, and this also shows the static middleware that I recently added to Morph, which, so you say, everything that comes in with the path public should return files that are located in the public folder. And then we have the router, which obviously uses the routes library. So I'm not sure if I can use a pointer here somehow. So these things are routes. I will show more on this later, but basically this says that the string GraphQL and then nothing more should point to the graphical handler. And if there's nothing or just a slash, we will do the hello world handler. And a handler is in Morph is just a request to a response. And then we wrap it in a LWT promise. I see there's a question here. Is Morph thought to be something more like Rails or something more like Sinatra, like the design philosophy? I think it's going to be more like Sinatra, but the more things I need, maybe it will be more Rails-like, but I try to keep my opinions to a minimum, and hopefully someone can add even more opinions on top. And what's Sinatra? It's a web framework in Ruby, I guess, which doesn't have very many opinions. It's basically just a router and web server, I think. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Another cool feature that we have in native web development is the TXML, or how do you say it, which is typed HTML. And with the new JSX PPX, you can write HTML that looks like HTML and get it type checked at compile time, which is pretty baller, actually. I will try to demo everything here later, so yeah. And then we have the Ocaml-graphql-server, where you do code first development. So you define a user object with the field ID, name, and email, which will take in, then you have the resolve function that takes info and the actual type, which is a user in this case. And then how do you return the ID, name, and email? Yeah. Someone else might be better at explaining these parts than I am. So now there's demo time. If you want to follow along, you can actually npm install easy and pc, and then you create a directory, cd into that, and then run pc template ReasonNative web Morph GraphQL-server pc template, because it's the longest name in the world. I can paste everything here in the chat. So if someone is interested in actually doing this, they can follow along. I'm going to change what I'm sharing here, if at all possible.
Can I? We actually have a question from the YouTube chat, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Someone asked, why is it so hard to read the schema?
Well, how do you explain this? Well, it's code first, as was said, which means that you define the schema in actual code that will run your server, but it will also generate everything in a type-safe way. But yeah, it's not like the GraphQL SDL or other simpler things. Maybe, yeah, like Jem Turan said that there's an open issue about using SDL syntax. I'm not really sure how that will work, because you still need the resolvers, etc. But maybe that's possible somehow. Yeah. I'm going to try to bootstrap everything like I showed in the last slide there. So I'm going to try to share the terminal, or maybe I can do portion of my screen shared instead. Yeah, let's see here. So if we have easy and we have PC, we can do PC. Oh, I need to create a folder, obviously.
Yes, the question for the chat, can everyone see the font? Is it big enough?
I can zoom it a bit, I think.
That should be good. It's good for me at least.
Yep. So now that we have a folder, we can do PC template. I can paste this into the chat as well. So this just points to my template. I lost the chat somewhere. Okay,
yes,
so
for the viewers,
the chat.
PC is a tool to make basically using easy even easier, right?
Yeah, so it will be more familiar for JavaScript developers. And the pun was initially that you would run easy PC, and then you would have all your development needs. Okay, so we're getting more things here. Okay, since I already have everything built, it just built. But a really cool thing about PC is that if you don't have everything built, it will actually ask you, do you want to warm up your cache from our CI environment? And then you can just press yes, and then it will download all the needed packages and put them in your easy store. And then you can just run easy, and then it will be basically instantly built like this. And then you're good to go, which is pretty cool. Okay, so now we have the project going. I will try to zoom here a bit. We have a bin directory. Okay. I'm closing this. Yeah, so this is just some basic logging setup. I'm not 100% sure about everything, but this at least says that we're only interested in the info logs. And then we say that we want a GraphQL handler. I will show the schema a bit later. And then we want a graphical handler, which will use a TXML renderer. So we'll see the type-safe HTML generation as well. We have some routes where we want GraphQL to give us the graphical thing. And then we have a very simple handler that just returns hello world. And then we have our post routes, which is the GraphQL handler that points to GraphQL, obviously. We try to read a port from the environment, or we default to 50/50. And then we create our server with the port and say that we only want to listen on localhost and not everything. And then we start the server. Are there any questions so far?
We have a question in chat.
Yeah. To build a real-world app using Morph, are there any query builders or ORMs that are mostly used? I have personally not gotten that far because things I have built so far have not needed databases, but I've heard good things about PPX wrapper and the, I can't remember what the underlying library is named, but maybe someone in the chat can answer that for me. Maybe Antonio, because I think he's using it. Cacti, that's right. So CAQTI. Yeah, okay, so we'll start from the TXML thing, because I think that's really cool. So here we just have normal HTML, at least that's what it looks like. But if I try to, let's see if I have my things set up correctly here. Can everyone see the terminal okay? Hopefully. So if I try to build this, oh, I just have to save it as well. And if I try to build this, I get a compilation error because a div cannot be the child of a paragraph, which makes sense, although the error is horrible, but maybe that can be fixed in what's called the thing that Facebook is building that helps you with errors. Yeah, so at least we get errors, and if I had my editor integration set up correctly, it would actually show that the P and the div doesn't match, so it would be red squiggless under the P tag, which is pretty cool. Any questions about TXML so far? It's a real bad demo that I can't show my editor integration. Maybe I can do this. No, because I only have that. Okay. I fucked up my environment earlier today, I think. So we also have the GraphQL, I thought. Maybe it's named something else. Okay, the schema. Okay, so here is the GraphQL schema that actually Jem Turan built for me some time ago, I think. At least he kickstarted this template that we're using now. So we define a user type that has an ID, name, and email, and then we stick them in a ref list. And then we create the schema that I showed earlier for a user. And then we have mutations where we can add users. takes a name and email, and then we create a new user and put it first in the list. And then we return the new user. And then you can query users and user by ID. I will also show this live later. Maybe that's actually basically it. It might also be interesting to show that we can do more interesting stuff with the router. So if we have our demo route, we can say that, yeah, we want a string, I want an int, and then we want to end the route, and we want to send this to a handler that takes a name, number, and we don't care about the request. And then we return a, wait, I can close the files. Return a morph response text with name, string of int number. And then this should be type safe, because this says that we want a string and then we want specifically a integer, and it will parse it for us and convert it to an integer. And this underscore is just a morph request. Yeah, and we don't care about it because we're not using it. So if we do EC start, we will also print a routing table for you, which might be handy. And then we can show the GraphQL. I'm going to move the window. And here we actually have the GraphQL server that is running everything. I'm bad with GraphQL, but we should be able to do add user with name Pontus. And I don't know your email, but maybe like this.
First guess. That's impressive.
Oh, that's right. Must be mutation, right? Yeah. And then we should have users. Yay. Yeah, and we can also show that we have the demo Ulrik route, and it works as we would expect. And I don't think we can send whatever here. Yeah, but it will be 404 because it's not a number. So yeah, I think that's it for me. Hopefully someone gets interested in doing native development with Reason or Ocaml. Yeah. Thanks for listening to me ramble for a bit. If there's any more questions, ask them now or forever hold your peace.
Yes, thank you, Ulrik. We have a question with, there's always one person asking this question whenever someone shows code, and the question is, what is your VS Code theme?
It's Night Owl.
Night Owl. Yeah, and someone, this is from the YouTube chat, by the way, I'm monitoring that as well. And someone asked about the arrows, and I believe it's a font that supports the ligatures, right? So it's,
yeah, so I have Fira code.
Yeah, Fira code. Okay.
I understand that this is a bad demo, but
no.
the arrows are an @ sign and then 2 dashes and a less than or greater than sign, I guess. Less than, maybe.
And that's a defined infix operator from Morph, is it?
This is from the routes library.
The routes. Oh, okay.
Cool. In Morph, we just have a convenient Morph router function that uses routes library under the hood, where you can give it get, post, put, and delete routes. And then you can tell it to print or not. It prints by default. Okay. This is where the routing table is coming from.
Yeah, I am but a simple front-end developer. I actually started doing a bit of Express last week, and I'd much rather do this, but oh well. You have the nice
we have
pointy arrows and
middlewares, etc. So if you know some of Express, you might feel somewhat at home, at least.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ulrik. We have people in the YouTube chat thanking you as well. Lots of hearts and thumbs up. And unless anyone has any other question, I think that's it. So an applause for Ulrik.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ulrik.